Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the LFC Transfer Room. My name is Lewis, and I'm joined today by Willem, by Neil, and soon we will have Paul in. He's just having a few technical issues, so apologies for the delay. And actually, as I say that, he has just joined. Let's get him onto the stage. There we go. Now we're joined by Paul. You okay, Paul?
Fashionable late.
Fashionably, exactly. You've just made a grand entrance, and that's what we like to see. But as I say, everyone, joined by these wonderful people, we're going to go through a few topics today. We've got Ait Nouri from Wolves, Gravenberch and his Netherlands call-up, and then we've got a World 11 to discuss, and then we'll do a Premier League 11. If anyone's got any questions they want to put into the chat, feel free, and we will discuss them at the end if we have time. And everyone, please make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Really close to 10k subs, so we need to make that happen by the new year. Everyone just needs to make sure they hit the subscribe button. But first and foremost, how's everyone doing? Willem, happy? All good?
Yeah, all good. Glad with the result from the weekend and just relaxed into a week off now.
Week off from football. Well, I like the international break, but I know there's a lot of people who really just look at it as a bit of a holiday. Neil, all good, all happy?
Yeah, all good, thanks. I think it's always good to sign off the international break with a win, and being 1 point off the top as well. It kind of left everyone happy and waiting for the resumption.
Absolutely, and it was a fantastic result of the weekend. It's a perfect way to go into an international break when your next game is Manchester City. Paul, how are you doing? All good?
I'm doing pretty well, man. Just like Neil says, it's always so much better to win your last game and then into a break. Actually, the points standing is exactly where I thought we were going to be. Just that I had us beating Luton and probably drawing another game. But there you have it.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, that Luton, we don't talk about Luton. Luton didn't happen. We go from Brentford and then that's it. We just go from there. But as I say, guys, we've got a few topics to discuss today. Willem is wearing a bucket hat. So, everyone, big shout out to that. But I suppose we'll start off then with the biggest piece. Obviously, the news is a little bit slow because we are in the international break at the moment. But one big piece of news that has come out, so to speak, Ait Nouri, the left back from Wolverhampton Wanderers, he's been linked with a move to us. So this comes apparently from Lfctr Sport, or however you pronounce it, not exactly French, but yeah. So apparently the interest from Liverpool there is serious interest there, but there's no indication yet of whether we've made contact or not, or how much the price would be. And apparently the reports are stating that if there was a move to take place, it wouldn't happen until next summer. Now, Willem, I'll go to you first. Ait Nouri is a good left back. The reports are saying that he's being viewed as the long-term successor to Andy Robertson. I mean, is that really someone we should be looking at as a full-time replacement for Robertson at left back?
I mean, it's a hard one to say, really, because let's be honest here. When we signed Robbo, I don't think anyone of us expected Robertson to become what he's eventually become when we signed him from Hull for only £8 million. So it's not to say for Ait Nouri that it wouldn't be the case. What is more my thought of this, and this might be as well due to me not watching Wolves that much this season, is that I'm pretty sure Wolves normally play 3 at the back, but maybe they've changed that now with Gary O'Neill, where it's a 4 at the back. When they play with 3 at the back and 2 wing backs, that's normally where you get Ait Nouri on there. So if it were to be offered, is it in a way of like, are we going to swap out Tsimikas and then have Ait Nouri come in as the backup and the understudy for it? Then I'd say, yeah, it could be a decent deal. And if not, it could also be a good squad player if you eventually do decide to look on for a starting left back ahead of Robbo. But on paper, if you just look at how he's played and stuff and everything, I don't exactly see the fit.
Like you said there, it's under Gary O'Neill. I've just got the formation that they played against Tottenham, which they've won 2-1, of course. Thank you, Wolves. Ait Nouri, they played 3 at the back. Nouri was played as a bit of a left wing back. He was actually fairly good rating-wise. I think he was the 3rd highest rated player in the Wolves side. Neil, I mean, I mentioned then that there's no fee. Nothing's been agreed. Nothing's been majorly discussed in terms of price. Ait Nouri, he's got plenty of Premier League experience. He's only 22 years old. He comes from a Wolves team that's been managed by the likes of Nuno Espirito Santos, Gary O'Neill now. What would you be paying, or what would you be thinking in the region of cost for someone with Ait Nouri's age and ability on their side?
I think it'll be a relatively hefty fee because I think he is quite highly rated. I personally think if we're going to shell out, 20-30 million pounds on a player, which it could easily take to get him, I think there's probably better options out there. I watched that game on Saturday against Spurs, and he's clearly talented, and he's good going forward. He's very good on the ball. I also think he's quite casual, and I'm not sure that would be a good fit for us. So I'm of the opinion that it would only be as someone to contend for the left back spot rather than someone that's going to come in and be a nailed on starter. I wouldn't be paying more than sort of 15 to 18 million, which I don't think will be enough to get him. I've watched him for Wolves in the past, and I've looked at him and I thought, I quite like him. I think he's decent, and I think he is. But I was really willing that Wolves team on Saturday for obvious reasons, and I found him quite frustrating and quite casual at times. So for me at the moment, I wouldn't be spending big.
So, I mean, I agree. I think money-wise nowadays, the amount of money that is thrown around, like there's a comment here saying 25 to 30 million. Paul, I'll throw to you then. Andrew Robertson, he's not over the hill, in my opinion. There's a lot of people who are saying, he's not as good as he used to be. He's sort of dipped this season. He is still one of the best left-backs in the world to a lot of people. He's not in his 30s yet. Ait Nouri would cost us a lot of money to essentially be a backup player for now, or in the summer even, because I don't see Robertson really going anywhere. When you look at Nouri, do you see anything that he can do that Tsimikas can't? Or would you think it's time to get rid of Tsimikas, bring Nouri in as the backup left back to Robertson, and then eventually take over from him?
Well, actually, I see Ait Nouri as just a younger version of Tsimikas. He's pretty good going forward, decent going forward, not the greatest defender there is. But at 22, he obviously have a lot of football ahead of him. He can learn. And I think we have to probably give the benefit of the doubt to our scouting department. He wasn't a guy that was on my radar, to be fair. But if we can get him for around about that 20 million-ish, I think it's a risk that's worth taking. Let's face it, there is really not a lot of left-sided defenders available out there in the price range in which we are shopping, right? And if we clearly believe that Robbo will have another year or two left at his peak, there's nothing wrong in bringing a 22-year-old player who has a lot of talent. Very soon, even Robbo will still be the number one for another year or two, but we'll have to start to look to reduce his workload. So if it's a case where we can say, for example, sell Tsimikas at the end of the season for, say, 10 million, 15 million, and we get Ait Nouri for, say, 25, so that's a net of 10, 15-ish, I think it's a decent deal because, as I said, not much left-footed defenders available now with Premier League experience. And also, I remember when we went to Wolves a few years ago and we got Diego Jota. He wasn't a guy that was on my radar. He wasn't that exciting player to me. And I was saying, why are we getting this guy? So, I think we need to see how this develops. I'm sure if it's going to be more than 30 million, we're going to walk away. No, Liverpool operates. But at the right price, I'm fine with it.
Wolves to me strike me a lot of Southampton when we started taking players from them, in that you look at players who they've sold over the past a few years, and players that we've signed off them, and Nunes has just gone, Neves has just gone. They had Conor Quadri, Ait Nouri looks a decent player, Adama Traore. They have a habit of producing these incredible players. And Willem, I mean, these stats are going to be slightly inflated because obviously he's playing for a team that are battling relegation. Let's be real here, but. Like Paul said there, going forward, he looks good. Defensively, his stats actually aren't too bad. He's got 3.16 tackles per 90, 1.2 interceptions, 2.67 clearances. They're good stats. And like I said, I understand they're going to be inflated because he's in a poor team. But do you think he could do a better job defensively than Tsimikas, or do you think he is just sort of essentially the same thing? He's one of these players who's great going forward, but defensively he doesn't look anything special.
Well, he definitely has a lot more physicality than Tsimikas, which often is actually my biggest issue with Tsimikas being our backup, which is going forward he's fine, but defensively he just leaves so much more to be desired because he just doesn't have the pace or the physicality to really get after the wingers. And I mean, against Brentford as well, I think you often saw it the minute he went up as well to attack and to go towards the box. The minute we lost the ball, Nunes was running faster and with way more intensity behind the Brentford player than Tsimikas was. And that for me is something, especially if you're a defender and you're a fullback, that's unacceptable for me. So and I do think that needs to be addressed as well at the end of this season, where the drop off from Robbo to Tsimikas is too big. So I mean, Ait Nouri would be a good option to go for. He's young still, and like I said, if he's going to be used for an understudy that we can look on in the long term to really replace Robbo, and it works out well, then yeah, it's fine. The same thing though with the prices now in the modern market. That's just going to be the bigger issue. I don't see us paying 25 to 30 million for a fullback. Like Neil said, 15, 18, I'd say 20 at most. And that's if we really, really believe in him. I mean, a good option. He plays well. I think under Klopp, he would improve his defensive side even more than his stats are already saying that he does. But yeah, I just don't know if we're really truly going to go after him or not.
No, I'd have to agree. And Neil, like you said, like Willem said there, he is a good player, but whether or not we're actually going to go after him remains to be seen. Say we don't go for Ait Nouri, and say if I say to you, right, we've got these three left backs here, we've got Robertson, Tsimikas, and Luke Chambers. Are you sticking with that, or is there a different left back that you'd like to see brought into the club? Like, how would you work it? Would you stick with what we've got, or what would you change, and who would you bring in?
So I think Costas signed his new contract, and I think that was all about protecting his transfer value. So it was a few weeks back, wasn't it? I think he signed a new deal. I think whilst he's happy at the club, I don't think it's good for a player to be back up for what will be, the best part of 4 seasons. I think by the end of this season. So I would be looking to move him on. I've seen Chambers live a couple of times for the under-21s. I like him. And we've also got Callum Scanlon, who's looked quite lively, a little bit naive at times, also look quite lively. So I'd be in favour of moving Tsimikas on. I thought he played well on Sunday. He was allowed to roam a bit higher up the pitch, and he looked much better for it. So I'd be looking to move him on. And then I think the decision is, do you sign an out-and-out left back to provide competition to Robbo and put him under pressure, or do you look at this kind of dual-purpose hybrid player that can play left centre back and left back, which seems to be quite common? You look at what City's doing with Vardiol, and they've done it with Ake. Are we going to look at a Gonzalo Inacio and try and do something similar? So I'd be in favour of moving Tsimikas on, and I'd want to bring someone in that could ultimately replace Robertson, and that could be that type of hybrid player. If that could be the way forward. Interestingly, sorry, just on Ait Nouri, I looked at, so his contract's till the middle of 2026, and he's under the Gestifute agency, which I think is George Mendes. So I think that's Nunes' agent. I think it's also Jota's agent as well. So I'm not saying it'll mean it will happen, but it's just there is a link there as well.
I mean, look, we've seen so many players in the past that share the same agent, and suddenly the rumours spark up out of nowhere that they're going to start. I think who was the one who owns Haaland? Or owned Haaland? He was like Pogba's agent, and
it was Raiola.
Raiola, yeah. And as soon as Pogba came in, all United fans were thinking we're signing everyone because he's in charge of the world talents, and the ended up with Anthony. So it could be something that works, but. Yeah, it's very much agents are very speculative. look no further. Grimaldo by Leverkusen, he would probably cost about £80 million the way he's playing at the moment. And Paul, I'll keep the last question on the left back situation similar to the one I asked Neil. Now, if I was asking you, what would you be changing? Would you keep the players we've got now, and would you change anyone? And I'll throw the bonus question. Jamie Carragher said a lot of fullbacks are wingers that couldn't make it as wingers, and they've had to come back. Should, with our defence being the weakest part of our team on the pitch, should we be looking at someone who is far more defensive minded rather than someone who's provided going forward? And if so, who would you bring in to fill that role?
It's kind of funny that you said our defense is the weakest part of our team, when I think we're tied with Arsenal for the lowest amount of goals conceded so far this year. But, I get what
shows how good we are.
There you go. Obviously, you would like a player who excels at both, but those players are rare and they're very expensive. If I have to choose, I would prefer a guy for that position that is slightly more offensive, knowing the way how we play. I would prefer a defensive-minded number 6, but I want my fullback, my left back, to be somebody who can overlap, go to the byline regularly, put the ball on in the 6-yard box. So if I have to sacrifice, and this is where I don't mind Ait Nouri, because I said, if we get him, if we don't get him, I don't care either way. But for the right price, I'm fine with that. As to the left side of centre back, I don't think it's one or the other. I think we need both. Yes, our captain is having a super year, but what is he now? 32, 33 next season? So if we could get a decent 20, 21-year-old left-footed centre-back as well as Ait Nouri under 6, all 3 players can cost us, 70, 80 million. I'm sure we can afford that. Plus we have Thiago and Matip to leave at the end of the season. So I don't think it's one or the other. And if to answer your question, I don't want a defensive left back who doesn't offer much going forward. And I think that is why Tsimikas has hung around for so long, and the club keeps him, because we all know his defensive inefficiency. Is not very efficient defensively. That's what I'm saying. But he's decent going forward, So I have a funny feeling that this Ait Nouri thing, there's more to it than just rumor. But I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I don't mind him at all.
No, I completely agree with the sense of whether we get it. If we get him, great. If we don't, I'm not losing sleep over it. It's not someone. Yeah. It's not someone who I feel like we absolutely need.
Because Lou, who else can we get that matches those 2 criteria for the price that we are willing to spend?
Yeah.
The obvious answer would be Alphonso Davies, but 1, I think he's going to Madrid, and 2, is going to cost us north of 60 million. We're not going to pay that for a left back.
No, it's the same as Grimaldo. Like it would cost an extortionate amount to bring him in, and let's be honest, unless we sell Salah for the 200 million, we're not spending that money. That's just not going to happen. Move on to the next topic in a moment. I've seen a good few things to discuss. Van Dijk, highest dual success, 0 errors leading to goals, 0 dispossessions, 0 times dribbled past. Van Dijk is back. Believe, Lou, believe. I do not believe in Van Dijk. I feel like this has sort of shifted, and I didn't help myself on James Lawrence Alcott. I love Van Dijk to death. I just think he's changing the way he plays as he goes forward. But I still think he is one of, if not the best centre-back in the world. Gented, Thiago must go. Absolutely. I mean, is there anyone who disagrees with that, really? Willem, Thiago, what's your thoughts on him?
I love him as a player, but it's untainable now. Like I think he's been out more time than the period of time he's actually been able to play matches for us. And it would just be ridiculous if we at this point extended him. Like I love the guy. And honestly, if he were fit, I don't think any of us would have been talking about moving him on. And also just for how fantastic of a player he is, but. Yeah, it's I can't defend Thiago staying anymore.
No, I've said it a few times. I think Thiago is like, if I bought a Ferrari, but I don't put any petrol in it, I'm paying road tax, I'm paying insurance, extortionate amounts for something that I can't use. So what's the point? Like, Neil, have you got thoughts on Thiago at all? Is he someone that you just think it's time to move on, or are you in the opposite camp?
I'm in the opposite camp because I think we have got a absolutely top class player on the books. I think I understand why people are willing to say he should go, and I get it. If he was to sign a new contract, whether it would have to be at a reduced amount to what he's on now, but I think he's a special player. I think he actually got injured last year because he was overplayed. Period around January where I was absolutely staggered. I think it was the Wolves Cup tie when I saw him started in that game, and he had a run of games, and then he picked up this injury. I think now with, I think we've got eight midfielders, including him. We may get another in January.
Yeah,
us the youngsters coming through, we can use him sparingly as and when we need him. So, assuming that we wouldn't have to pay him a fortune, and that is an assumption because I don't know what he'd be after, because he could probably get offered a lot elsewhere. I'd be in favour of him sticking around, because not only is he a fantastic player, he will be good for others to learn from as well.
Yeah, I mean, he is, when he does play, he's exceptional. I haven't really got much of an argument to that, to be honest. He is one of those players that when he does play, he's fantastic, but he plays once a year, once every 6 months, so it swings and roundabouts. Paul, your thoughts on Thiago? And there's a comment here that said from Jamie saying a tutor for badge. Now, is it worth keeping someone for 300k a week just to be a teacher to badge tips, really? Or can he provide more for this team, Thiago, if he can get the injury crisis under control?
I think we have had enough of Thiago. None of us here will dispute how skillful or talented the guy is. But I think he's the second or third highest paid player in the team. And you can't be paying a guy 250, 300k a week to be a mentor. No, that just doesn't fly. So the guy gets injured coming out of bed. It's just ridiculous now. We haven't even seen him since the start of the season, and there's no indication that we'll see him anytime soon. So if we're lucky, we might get 10 appearances for him during the course of the year. And based on his history, there's nothing to suggest that will improve next year. So what's the point? And also with how our midfield is stacked right now, assuming that he's fit come January, February, does he get into our best 11? I don't think so. Right. Is he a good
disagreement there?
Is he a good squad player? Is he a good squad player if he's on the bench healthy? Absolutely. But does he get into our best 11? Where would you play him? At the 6? Without legs?
We've got no legs at the 6 right now anyway. It's literally like, I love McAllister as well, right? But look, he's not a 6. We haven't got a 6 anyway. So like Thiago coming in, I don't think it would be much of a change of him playing at the 6 than McAllister playing at the 6. But he needs to be available to play. And he isn't.
There you go. And I know I'm the only one who believes this, but I think we have the perfect replacement for Thiago in the team, and it's Trent. I have been saying this. Again, you guys might disagree, but tell me what pass that Thiago can make that Trent can't make. Is Thiago a better defender than Trent? Trent is not a good defender. I will give you that. But is Thiago a better defender than Trent? So I just don't see the point of keeping Thiago around at 300k a week for another season. I'm sorry. I love the guy, but the guy is just never available. And with no legs, I don't think it's worth it.
Well, it's interesting. I think you're right in terms of what can he do that Trent can't in terms of his passing. I do think Thiago defensively might be a little bit more astute than Trent at times. He's a bit more willing to sort of throw himself into a tackle.
Yellow card.
I mean, Lucas Leiva was the king of that yellow card just to break up play. But I mean, I've always said it, I don't think the deep line playmaker role is something you can necessarily do in the Premier League nowadays. It's more suited to like the Italian league where the game's slower, no one's pressing as much. In England, the minute you get the ball, there's suddenly 2 or 3 players around you. And I don't think as good as a passer Thiago is, I just don't see him being the answer at number 6 for us. Because, like you said, he just doesn't play. And there's an interesting comment saying, would we insist on trying to move on his wages to buy in January? If you think about how much he makes over a year, it's so if he's on, I think it's around 300k a week.
No, I don't think it is. I think it's 200. And
is it around 200?
200.
Okay, so if we say
and
200, yeah,
are on more. But yeah,
right, okay,
10 million a year.
Yeah, so 10 million. I mean, it's not a massive amount, but that 10 million for FSG at the moment, that 10 million is the difference for everything. I mean, if we're saying Ait Nouri, we valued him around what, like 15, 20 million, that's half his wages there. So there is definitely arguments for both sides of Thiago, but anyone in the comments, let us know what you think about him. I've seen mixed responses. Is it worth keeping Thiago around past this season? Or if not, please let us know. And remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons. There's a lot of people watching who haven't, so make sure you do it. We want to be at 10k by the new year, so I think we can make that happen. 10.4 million a year for Thiago, be accurate. I am not Rachel Riley. I cannot do maths that quick. I'm sorry.
I rounded down, so sorry.
How dare you? Right, so the next topic, Gravenberch. Now, we all love Gravenberch, let's be honest. We think he's a fantastic player. One person who's had their issues with him is Ronald Koeman. Now, I'll just read out the sort of, or Koeman, however you want to pronounce it. Willem, you've got the Dutch descent in you. How is it pronounced? Is it Koeman or Koeman?
It's weird even. It's Koeman. That's how you might say it. Yeah, Koeman.
That sounds like an ingredient.
Just say it out. Yeah, literally. It sounds like a spice that you put on onto something. But no, it's like that. But I mean, obviously, if you just say Koeman, everyone knows who you're going to be about.
I'll stick with you then. So the Dutch FA, Koeman, has come out and said that his exile is over. He's reminded the 21-year-old that if you are called, you must come. And this refers back to when Gravenberch refused to be called up to the under-21 squad, I believe it was, or the main squad a few months ago when he first moved to Liverpool. He'd just come back off injuries. He was trying to get himself fit to be ready to play for us. Now, Willem, before we started the stream, you spoke quite passionately, actually, about the situation. Now, give us your thoughts on this. I mean, was Gravenberch in the right to refuse an international call-up, or do you think it is slightly disrespectful for him to say, no, I don't want to play for my country?
I think he's completely in his right to say it, more because if you just look as well, apart from the Liverpool side, for the Dutch national team side, right? This is still one of your brightest, youngest talents at 21, who's just had a full year in where he didn't play. He didn't get into his form that he had in Ajax. He wasn't able to get things going over there. He finally gets the move. Klopp pretty much asked him as well to stay so he can get that time with him to already start integrating him into the squad and getting him playing. And I think what it comes down to is very much, in Holland, we have these Dutch legends who set up football back in the 70s, 90s, 80s and 90s. And it was Cruyff, Van Basten, Gullit, Koeman himself, obviously coming in as well. And all these guys obviously set up this great expectation of football in the country that's actually never been lived up to afterwards anymore. And now when these ex-legends and these ex-players see these players now saying, oh, well, I'm going to skip these two. And by the way, that's the thing that annoys me from them. They're acting as if they're telling them, oh, I'm going to bunk off the group stage of the Euros and I'll be back for the round of 16, yeah? Like, as in, they act like that's what they're asking, but it's not. And then all he's asking is to get some stability so that in the long term, he's going to be much better overall for both Liverpool and the Dutch national team. And that's the part where it's always been a clash between the legends and the modern generation in Holland. So like Van Dijk, for example, has gotten loads of criticism from the old Dutch players, Dutch media and stuff and everything, because he doesn't act like the traditional Dutch defenders did, like Koeman did, like a Stam did. There's many others, and like he's not similar in that way. And that's where these clashes are and they're so unnecessary as well, because they're absolutely you could have just avoided everything. You didn't have to make it public. You could have just, could have discussed this behind closed doors. Then you could have actually just said afterwards, look, he's got a little issue going on. That's why he's not with us right now. And then obviously behind the scenes, just tell him, look, you can't be doing this. Yeah, when I call you up country, You have to go and play. I'm not happy with you. I probably won't be selecting you next time anyway. And no one would have noticed because he's got a knee issue right now. So, like, as in, no one would have even thought about it. And like a lot of there wouldn't just have been this big deal that's made about it. And it's just unfortunate because it's all unnecessary. And in the long term, like international football wise, it could really hamper his experience just because he's got a manager who's been a bit petty.
Well, it's interesting you said there, Van Dijk getting criticism for not playing the Dutch way. It's similar to Brazil. You know, if the players aren't doing step overs and skill every few minutes or something, some of the fans get a bit wound up by the football because they consider it boring. So I think that is like something that a lot of different countries deal with. Now, Neil, I'll put to you, so 20 years old, he's house hunting, new city, family, etc. for Gravenberch. Had he joined us and started playing poor, you know, you'd be thinking, well, why would you refuse your international team? But surely the fact that he's came to us and hit the ground running the way he has shows that he was right. He was right to do what he did and not go to the international team and to refuse the call up. So what, in your mind, would you say it was the right decision for him? Do you think he's, like, it's a similar question to Will. Do you think he's disrespectful saying no to join the national team, or is this a case of he said no, but clearly there was a reason and clearly it worked?
I think from memory, the timing was quite tight between when he actually signed for us and when the international break along. I think it was fairly soon after he'd actually signed. So I can totally understand his reasons that it is a new club, it's a new city, he needs to sort out his personal circumstances. So I get that from that perspective. And I think the point that Willem made is a really good one. This could have been handled very differently behind closed doors. You know, he'd been picked for the under-20s or the under-21s. He wasn't playing in a crucial Euro qualifier for the senior national team. And behind closed doors, whether it was Koeman, Michael Reitziger, I think he's one of the directors of football for the Netherlands, and the player, I think could have sorted it out in a very different way. Instead, I think what you got was Koeman kind of flexing his muscles a little bit and saying that I'm the boss here, and if I tell you to do something, you're going to do that for me. And really, with Gravenberch as talented as he is, it seems a strange approach to me that you would publicly, attack a player like that. So I totally understand it from the player's perspective, and I think it was poorly handled by a manager that I don't think is very good anyway, to be honest. So that's my view.
Yeah, I mean, like you say, he's a very talented player. He's one of the better midfielders in the Netherlands squad, especially going forward. And let's be honest, Paul, this isn't the first time this has happened. Joel Matip refused to play for his country. He said he wasn't going to play for Cameroon ever again. It's not the first time this has happened, and I'm sure it won't be the last. So say you're in Ronald Koeman's position. How are you handling this? How would you go about dealing with this? Because obviously the media is going to ask, people are going to ask questions. What was the best way to deal with the situation in a sense that wasn't going to make Koeman look weak and possibly deter Gravenberch from ever going back to the international team if he was called up?
I think Koeman, whatever you pronounce his name. He's got a lot of egg in his face. Because let's face it, if Gravenberch is any good and we think he's a super talent, he will play for his national team, right? Whether he's Koeman or whoever is there, he will play. So stuff like this, you handle behind closed doors. I'm pretty sure something similar happened, even though they will not admit it, to with Sterling and Southgate. When Sterling left the World Cup, and Southgate is saying in public, "Oh, there's nothing wrong, and he's fine, and he's in our plans," but it's blatantly clear that he's not picking Sterling. So there are ways that managers can deal with a player if they think that the player has been disrespectful. I'm not saying that Gravenberch was being disrespectful, but what I'm saying is there are better ways that managers can deal with this situation rather than come in public and try to put down a player, knowing fully well that if the player is any good, he will play, even if it means that they will sack the manager if the team is not performing. So I think he has a lot of egg on his face. I think how Gravenberch dealt with the situation was very reasonable. He couldn't have it was not fair to ask the guy to come across, for a game that was not really that important. He was just in the new city. I think it was terribly handled by Koeman.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, there's so many times in the past where managers have had problems with players and they've openly came out and discussed it and slandered the player. We've seen Ten Hag do it recently. In the modern game now, in the modern day, you have to mental health is such a huge thing with players that managers need to learn how to deal with that situation better. And to me, Koeman's come from that sort of generation of, well, no, if he's not willing to come up, he will be addressed in the public. And, that doesn't necessarily work. Willem, like, if you look at this Netherlands squad, he's arguably one of the better players. If it was a case of other players just got called up over him, that would have been fine. Could that have been something that he said instead of he's said no to coming up? Could he have just said, oh yeah, he just didn't make the cut? Like, even I know he said no to being called up because the squad was announced, but could Koeman have just come out and just said, look, no, we've just picked other players because he's not quite ready? Like, would that have just been a better way to handle this situation?
I mean, that's kind of the baffling bit as well. Like, as in, we got to remember, Gravenberch didn't reject to play for the Dutch national team. No, it's the under-21s. So Koeman wasn't even going to select him anyways. So that's also the other part where I just get even more confused as to why Koeman's the one publicly dragging it out. Because fair enough, if the under-21 manager has an issue with it, okay, then at least he's within his rights to complain about it because he selected him. But I mean, like, Koeman's just looking for I think it's just a clash of generation mostly happening into it as well. Like, I don't know. It's also as well, there's just like you said as well. There's just very little understanding as well to the mental part of it, and it's very, if you're not with us, then you're against us, and I'll call you out publicly on it. Yeah. It's a very shut off mentality with it. And I mean, I think as well, it's just something that's going to come over with the times as well, because what a lot of these managers as well that are forgetting, who are age 50, 55 and 60, is that the world obviously is getting more multicultural as well. Like Van Dijk, Gravenberch, and I'm pretty sure there's a couple of the other guys as well, but they have Suriname roots or from Mauritius or from somewhere. Like, if in the future, at some point, these teams do become more competitive and they do become more successful, then what do you do as a European country? You put yourself in danger because you basically are, like, isolating your talent away because they just asked for a little bit of time and they didn't listen to your request at the time. And for all we know, if it's just in a situation where he's barely played a cap, oh, well, I'm going to represent Mauritius now or Suriname now instead of or Morocco, because we have a lot of that. We have a lot of those links as well. Like, it can all just happen in the future with it as well. So it's just a dumb game by Koeman at the end of the day. There's just no need for it.
Yeah. Well, it's a really interesting point you made, that there are a lot of players who can represent. I mean, we saw Jack Grealish and Declan Rice do it. So, there are players who can play for loads of different countries if they want to. Right, we're going to move on from the Gravenberch situation. I think there's pretty much everything we can say about it. Everyone, just please make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Right, for the last 20 minutes, we're going to go over what's been sort of voted as the World 11. Now, this is just players based on form. This is just how they've been this season. I'm just getting it up on my phone here. So this is apparently statistically the best starting 11 in the world. We're just going to go through position by position and just go over if we think there's anyone who could potentially take over from these certain spots. Now, I'm going to go through them one at a time. If anyone disagrees, feel free to jump in. If anyone has anything they want to add on the player, feel free. And the comments, please let us know as well. And remember to get your questions in for the end of the show. Goalkeeper. So, as voted statistically, the best goalkeeper in the world at the moment is Alisson. Anything to say about that? Paul, thoughts on Alisson?
No complaints from me. He's not the best in Brazil, according to the coach, right, sitting on the bench.
Yeah,
but I think pretty much everybody with a football brain would know that Alisson is the best goalkeeper in the world. So yeah, that's not a surprise at all.
Neil, Any arguments with the Alisson decision, or would you be picking someone else?
No, and it staggers me that Ederson is picked ahead of him for the national team, to be honest.
Yeah.
It wasn't the case a few months back, so I don't know what's changed. Although Ederson has been removed from international duty due to injury, ahead of our game, surprisingly enough. So Alisson will no doubt play. So for me, he's the best. I love him. I think he's fantastic. And a brilliant person as well.
Yes, absolutely. Onana, no, he's not getting anywhere near this team, let's be honest. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say. Maybe the only thought I can maybe think is Ancelotti is set to be the next Brazil manager. Maybe Ancelotti just prefers Ederson. He's getting a bit of a say maybe in who's getting picked for the team to sort of for when he comes in. It's very doubtful, but there is, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. If you pick an Ederson over Alisson, something's going on behind the scenes. Right. Left back. Willem, I'll go to you with this one. Left back statistically is Grimaldo. We spoke about him a bit earlier. Without a doubt, he's been one of those players who's been teetering on breaking into that upper tier of football this season under Alonso. I mean, we're seeing a world beater. Is he someone who, where do you see him ending up in his career? Somewhere really like a Real Madrid or something maybe? Or do you think this is he's just going through a bit of a bright spell at the moment?
It's hard to tell at the moment because if we're only basing it on this season so far, then I 100% agree. I can't give it to anyone else but Grimaldo right now because I do think on form he has been the best overall left back in Europe so far. Yeah. But yeah, in the long run, I honestly have no idea because it depends on many factors as well. Does Xabi Alonso leave at the end of the summer, and does Grimaldo still stay in Bayern Leverkusen because they ask too much money for him? Because that could be a factor. Then if next season without Xabi Alonso he's playing there and it massively drops off, is he then really the player that the massive club in the world will want to go for? Like I find it, and as well, I know too little about the player. I haven't watched enough of Grimaldo before this season to really know if the potential is there for the long term or if he's just having an unreal start for the season.
Well, that's the thing. So Jamie Hughes has put, is this for the EPL only? This is a World 11. This is the one that's been voted for by I think the fans have contributed and a lot of players have actually put towards this. It's statistically the best players in the world. There was a Premier League one done a few weeks ago, so we're just sort of broadening the spectrum a little bit to pick. I mean, Paul, we mentioned earlier price tag for Grimaldo. How much are we talking? And with Klopp's contract winding down in the next few years, and Alonso's someone who a lot of fans would love to see. Is Grimaldo, if you could pick one player from that Leverkusen team to come with him, is Grimaldo the one that you'd be picking for this team?
Well, the problem that Grimaldo might face or the club might face in getting a huge transfer for him is his age. I think he's about 28, 29-ish.
I can find out for you.
And I don't see us or many teams going to be forking out 60, 70 million for a 28, 29-year-old left back. And the fact that we don't know much about, I don't know much about him, that is telling me that he has not been this great for the past 3-4 seasons. He might just having a fantastic year right now. So I have no doubt that the guy is really good, but at this age, I am not so sure that, we will be paying 70, 80 million for somebody like that. Can I give a shout out to my fellow Canadian, Alphonso Davies? I just really like that guy. Because he's 22 or 23. So, I think he would be my pick for the best left back in the world right now. But if Grimaldo is having a fantastic year, as no doubt he is, then I can see where the vote is. But in terms of transfer, I would pay more for Davies right now because I think he's 5-6 years younger than a left back who's approaching 29. Did you double check his age?
He is 28. 28,
yeah. There you go.
I mean, 28 is a big, especially for a left back who's relying a lot on pace.
Yeah, because
it fade quick.
Yeah, you have to have a lot of legs to play a left back, especially in our setup where So at 28, 29 next year, probably too old.
Plus, he's also
So-
playing as a wing back normally, Grimaldo.
Yes,
He's also
yeah.
playing a 3 in the back. It's not full on left back. And I get Paul's point, by the way. I 100% agree on the Davis point. If you're thinking of a transfer and who you're getting in the long term, he's the number one target on everyone's list.
Yeah, and Hellier says Frimpong, the right back, he looks incredible as well. I know Man United were after him, but is what it is. They got Wan-Bissaka instead. So, Neil, I've saved the fun one for you. Apparently, a player who people seem to think I don't like, which isn't true. Van Dijk apparently statistically is in the starting 11. I completely agree with that. What's your thoughts with regards to that?
Yeah, I think his levels are getting close to what we know he's capable of. I think last year he was criticised for it, and I think he was too casual at times. But I think I think it may be related to the captaincy. That now he's realised that he really needs to be switched on and highly focused in these games. And other than the mistake at Newcastle, where he got the red card, I've watched him in some games, and he's just imperious. And even on Sunday, a couple of times he needed to put the afterburners on. There's still some pace there. And he just shuts down danger. A brilliant clearance that he made on Sunday as well. The one that came in from a corner, got flicked across the goal, and he cleared it over the bar. So for me, when he's in this type of form, no one can get close to him. I'm pleased. He was always going to be a very good performer, but he's showing signs that he really is getting back to somewhere near his sort of 2018, 2019 levels. So for me, there's no doubt that he should be in there.
And Willem, I mean, I've got a few stats for you here. So for Van Dijk in that game against Brentford, 10 out of 10 accurate long balls, 2 blocks, 2 header clearances, 4 clearances, 6 out of 7 aerial duels won. I've said a few times, I think Van Dijk is starting to lose his pace, but positionally and technically, he's looking a better player than he ever has. Like, he's positioning himself in the right spots. Do you think he could be like one of these Thiago Silva players or a John Terry type player where just because his football IQ is so high that he could keep going till he's in his, late 30s, maybe even early 40s?
Yeah, I think so. Especially, actually, the fact that Thiago Silva is still playing at this high level at this age only shows me that if he can do it, Van Dijk can do it 100%. So, yeah, I'm not worried. I always say, to be fair with Van Dijk, where it's the same with Van Dijk and with Salah, the minute don't really mention them, that means they're back to their best because they're just good and they give such a high standard that we just kind of, it's like, it's not even a focus anymore of ours because we just know what we're going to get from them. And I think he same as Neil, bar the red card against Newcastle, I think he's been superb this season. And I mean, as well, that clearance against Brentford, where he's literally doing like an Ibrahimovic high kick nearly at the top corner and just gets it away. Like, it's brilliant. He has been really fun to watch again this season as well. Just seeing him back to his best.
I mean, Paul, I'll keep with you for Van Dijk because the next player is Araujo from Barca. So I don't really think anyone's really got much to say on that. We're just going to go for the interested ones, really. No offense, Araujo. Van Dijk this season, I mean, just how good is he? And if you could sort of compare it to a previous season where he's been playing, what level is he at? Because he's, last season he wasn't fantastic, but is he quite as good as, say, the 18-19 season? Where's he ranking at the moment?
He's pretty close to where he was before the Jordan Pickford assault. But he's a little bit, I was going to say that he's a little bit down in pace. But then, because he's always where he's supposed to be, he doesn't have to be trying to recover at speed too many times. So that tells me that he's a smarter, more experienced player. So I don't think he will ever get back to that 18-19 season. But at 85% of that is still right now. I know people talk about William Saliba or whoever, but at this moment, he's the best centre back in the Premier League.
Yeah.
As I said, he is. And funny enough, when he was given the captaincy, I was one of those who wasn't so sure because I didn't see the leader in him, especially the criticism he gets from his national team. But I think the captaincy has really done something else for him. You could see the determination in his eyes too. We are not going to lose this game. If I have to stand on my head, but the ball is not passing. This is a big difference in Van Dijk this year versus last year. And I really like what I'm seeing. But right now, I think he's the best in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree. Like I said, the other centre-backs are Rayo. There's not really much to say there. He's a good player. Right back, statistically, Kieran Trippier. Now, is anyone here making the case for Trent to be in that starting 11? Or are we happy with Trippier? Does everyone agree with that selection? Willem, you're shaking your head there?
I don't necessarily agree with the Trippier selection, but I definitely am not having Trent in there at the moment. I think as well, like we've seen such high performance consecutive seasons of Trent that these last two have just been below his standard as well, if we're being honest. And if he's back to the old form, we need to go back for the old system to be fair, and buy a 6 and then get the fullbacks overlapping again, like Paul said before. That's why we're getting back to his best. But right now, I don't think he's in the conversation for being the on-form best right back in the.
Who are you picking then at right back?
Apart from Trippier,
Kyle Walker, maybe?
No, I'm not picking Kyle Walker. Actually, I was going to say
my choice. Yeah.
Really? But actually, the one I was going to say as well, I think it's a bit of bias as well for me coming in. But he already got mentioned before. I really do think Frimpong has been unbelievable as well for Leverkusen.
Yeah.
So, but because Leverkusen's wing backs are so important to them as well. So I think, and then as well having Grimaldo in there and stuff. So I'll be fine with Trippier staying in there. But if not, I would have probably put Frimpong in there.
Well, there is a Man City player statistically in this team, and shockingly, he's actually the only one in the team as well. Neil,
Diego Dallo?
I was like, what do you mean, Dallo? No. Dallo gets no. There's no reserve for this pitch. So.
Not Dallo, but Wan-Bissaka.
I know. Just trying to be
God.
quick here.
Jesus Christ. Are we just saying random names? Bloody hell. Neil, there is a City player, and that's Rodri. Where are you ranking him amongst the best CDMs in the world? I might just give you an answer there, but
number 1.
That's easy.
Yeah, I think
that's the easiest pick in the 11.
Yeah, I think so. As for someone that just breaks up play and is also a damn fine footballer as well. He's got everything you need. I hate playing against him, and I hate seeing him. Because he'll foul and he'll get away with things. But he's a fantastic. He does destroy things in the middle of the park, and he's very, very good on the ball. And I think whenever you speak to people about the type of defensive midfielder that you would want in your team, Rodri is the person that you use as that reference point, really. So that one's very straightforward.
Well, I'm going to keep it with you, Neil. Like, you made a really good point that he's good on the ball. Rodri as well is one of those players that he comes up in the big games with a goal. He scored against Arsenal last season, the Champions League final. He scored against Chelsea. It was a deflection the other day, but he still scored it. Again, defensively and overall play, he's the best CDM in the world. But is he arguably, could you say, the best CDM in the Premier, getting forward, having a go at goal? Can you really think of anyone else who does something to that? Fabinho used to do it, but obviously he's not around anymore.
No, I think City had 2 really important, what I call clutch players. Ilkay Gundogan was one. Again, always scoring goals in cup finals, scoring goals to win them the league. Massively important. But in terms of a central defensive midfielder to do that, Rodri is the only one really that you could see coming up with these big moments, as you say, Champions League final when it really, really counts. Even Fabinho at his prime you weren't expecting him to come up with a winner in a Champions League final. He did score an important goal in the semi-final of the Champions League season before last against Villarreal, but not in the same not on the same level as Rodri. As much as I hate to say it.
Yeah.
Is Declan Rice a 6?
Yeah, but he's sort of getting a bit further forward.
Yeah, because for the England setup, I think it's Calvin Phillips who plays that role, and Declan is kind of more further forward.
Just another one to add on to the list of Dallo. Just get him out. Well, the next player, Paul, it's not. It might shock you. It's not Calvin Phillips. Just before we continue there, but it is, and according to this, it's Jude Bellingham. Now, I want to get your take on this. How much are we regretting not getting Jude Bellingham? Or do you think for the price that that was touted around, do you think he is, would you have wanted him? Are you happy we didn't? Or do you still wish we had the chance?
Well, I was desperate for Bellingham. There's no doubt about that. But then if the rumors of the price, the complete package is really true, then there's no way it would have made sense. Especially too, I had a little bit of doubt about his durability. Yes, he is, 20? But the guy has played a ton of football. And even in the most important game of the Bundesliga season, the final game where they just need to win the championship, he was missing because of injuries. So I don't think it would have been responsible for us to spend that kind of money in one player. Right now, looks like he's injured. So I am very happy with what transpired. It would have been perfect if we could get Andre instead of Endo, because that would probably cost us maybe 10 million more net. But I understand that he didn't want to come last summer, and we may be out now. Which I find that bonkers, really, that we would be out from a guy like that from, 30 million, 35 million? But no, it would not have been responsible for us to pay that kind of money for the entire package for Bellingham. No, so I'm happy with what happened.
Right, so I'm gonna read out the next 4 because I didn't even realize we were coming up to the hour mark. That's blew by. The central attacker midfielder apparently is Griezmann. I mean, sure. I haven't really got much complaints. I think
I've seen him play. He's been unbelievable this season.
Yeah.
He's back to vintage Antoine Griezmann, like the one from 5 years ago. That was one of the more unstoppable players. He has been that good again. I can't lie. So
didn't he score a last-minute winner the other day or something like that as well?
Oh no, he scored a hat trick. I know that. But a hat trick, the winner. I mean, he's on it. He's been on it.
Yeah. I mean, so he's the attacking midfielder. Striker apparently is Kane. I don't think anyone's really going to... I mean, Haaland's Haaland, but Kane, I mean, he's just out of this world. And Neil, I've saved the other fun one for you. Right winger apparently is Mohamed Salah. I just want you to give us a description of Salah, just, how good has he been during this season? This is just based on this season, so just how would you rank him in terms of how he's been?
Outstanding, because he continues to score goals at an amazing rate. I think he's got 10 league goals. He's just behind Haaland. He scores goals when we need them, but I think his game has gone to a new level over the last sort of 12 to 18 months, because he's also very much a creator now, and quite often you see him out in those wide right positions where at times he would always just drive at the fullback, and now you're looking for him and he's assessing what runners that he's got, and he's trying to play those slide rule passes in behind, like he did for Robbo at Wolves earlier in the season. So the biggest sort of compliment I can give him at the moment is, I don't know how on earth we would replace him if we didn't have him, because he is absolutely sensational, and I want him to be in this team for the next how many years he can be there for, because he's a special player. And even when the team's not doing well, he still puts the numbers up that others don't. It's hard to put it into words because he's just outstanding.
I mean, I made the analysis on Redmen. I've said that Salah's like the lion tamer and Nunez is the lion, and he's just basically going to him, right, just go. I will feed you the ball. You do what you want with it. If you want to make something happen, you go for it. And Paul, I'll pass over to you on Salah before we just get to the last player really quick. Same sort of question. How good has Salah been this season, given that he's changed his role, he's adapted the way he plays? I mean, is it benefiting him more now than it ever has?
The guy's a machine. Just watching the games, he doesn't strike you the way he used in terms of, busy taking on players, going down that right flank, cutting in, like he used to do a couple of years ago. But then you look at the results, look at the statistics, look at the goals, the assists, and you realize that, hold on, this guy is still one of the best players in the Premier League, even at his age. And there was even his first goal on Sunday. Once he touched it with his right foot, it's a goal. It reminds me of a goal he scored again. I think it was against Man U, give them 4 Anfield, when we had a pass, when Mane chipped it over the top. And the moment he controlled it with his right, it's far corner. And the guy does that year after year after year. And he always go across the goalkeeper to the far corner and always hit the target. He's a machine. We can't replace him. Let's hope he's here for another 3-4 years.
And Willem, last one before we go. Kylian Mbappe is the left winger now. Straight question: would you have Mbappe in the team? Yes or no?
If I were, would I have him in the best 11 team, or would I have him in our team?
Our team, best 11, I think is pretty much undebatable. But
I don't think
the
so.
Liverpool team.
He's
really?
No, he's doing it in a Mickey Mouse league. Like, no, I don't think.
Him.
Nah, I'm sorry, but I think League One players should be really judged a lot harsher than the rest of the thing, because it's just a piss take of a league. That's just my opinion on it. I just think it's fine. It's just how it is. But if I would take him on our team, you know what? Honestly, I'm not sure, because I don't know. I don't think his character fits in. He's a bit like a diva. Look at the last 3 summers. He's been going to PSG. Oh, I'm leaving you. I'm going to Madrid. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm staying. Give me more money.
Yeah.
What, is that just going to be our situation every time as well with this clown? No, I'm sorry, clown. No. Sorry, that's a bit overreacting, but you know what I mean? As in, I can understand as well. Me living in Spain and having a lot of mates who are Madrid fans and stuff and everything, right? So as in, they tell me all the time. They're like, "What is this guy doing?" Madrid, because Madrid especially is an unforgiving club. The fact that they, even after the first time Mbappe rejected them in the summer, still came back for him once more, was already massive, because this club, their club's run by Florentino Perez, who has the most fragile ego in the country. So as in, if he doesn't get his way, he will be like a child throwing his toys out of the pram. Basically he's been doing with the Super League now for the last 4 years. He's still banging on about it now, how it needs to happen because it needs to save football and blah, blah, blah. And it's just not the case. And I think someone who has the world at his feet and makes that much of an issue with it, I don't know if I want that guy, to be fair. And that's kind of where I'm stuck on it now as well.
No, I completely agree. Personally, he's not someone I would want at the club. I think just his attitude, the wages, he would want to be the superstar. And I'm sorry, but Mo Salah at Liverpool is more of a superstar than I think Mbappe could hope to be, if I'm being completely honest. Maybe a bit biased, but who knows?
I don't want it.
No, I agree. I don't want him either, to be completely honest. I would rather much go out there and get someone with a better attitude, cheaper money, less wages. And that is going to conclude the show. I didn't realize it had been the hour. I'll be honest. I enjoyed discussing that. That was a lot of fun. Please, everyone, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Everyone's been fantastic on the show tonight. Got a lot of different opinions. It's not water as well that Willem was drinking. It was definitely vodka. I'm not being. There was a lot of aggression in that. So it's not water.
This is water.
Yeah, no,
I believe yours is water.
Yeah, I do it to hide it. Makes it look a lot better when it's through a water bottle.
But we've had a great time. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. The streams every single day, 7:30 p.m. UK time. There's not going to be any post-match streams because obviously we're on the international break. And unless you want to see me talk about England, I don't think anyone's going to tune in for that, really. There is also a 2 a.m. stream in UK time later on tonight for the American audience, I believe. And there's also a new podcast that came out fairly recently with myself and Damo, the You'll Never Talk Alone podcast. Make sure you go check that out. And there is more content coming every single day from the LFC transfer room. So from myself, Willem, Paul, and Neil, thank you very much for watching. Everyone have a great night, and we will see you for the next stream. Thank you very much.